want my stopwatch?
You should have your time.
Okay. Thank you, President Kathy. And it's my honor to lead you through the next part of our evening. And our speakers tonight are a pretty special group of individuals who have embraced how will we serve the world. The effect you've had on others, and in this case, the young boys at Life for Kids, is the most valuable currency you have. This group looked at what was in their hearts, and I believe this was what led us to Kenya and the mission. This would not have been possible by unless we had the help of the many donors and our club members contributing to this international project. So each of us is going to speak for a maximum of 4 minutes, and we've broken up the trip into several different areas. I'll ask Hank to come up. He's going to talk about the preparations, the medical side of things that we had to look into, and the meetings that we had in advance. I don't know if you want this. Could everybody hear me all right without the mic?
I think my voice will carry, won't it? Can you hear me?
You're on the clock.
I have never spoken for 4 minutes in my life. So my name's Hank DeJong. Good evening. I will share with you what our Kenya crew did to get ready for our trip to the Life for Kids home, our work activities, and our 3-day safari to the Masai Mara National Reserve. Our planning started by Fred arranging several meetings to discuss the trip. We discussed the government of Kenya requirements, the preventive medical measures we would take, the monetary issues involved, the activities we would perform while at the home, the rules regarding the importation of clothing for the kids, the expected climate, and other considerations such as the Kenyan plastic bags issue. More about that later. We discussed our travel and the details involved with meeting each other, since we were traveling on different airlines and through different connecting airports. Someone suggested we set up a WhatsApp chat group, and we became known as the Kenya crew. We needed to obtain a Kenyan government visa, which could only be obtained by completing their online application. This required us to submit our personal details as well as our arrival and departure information by uploading all our travel documents from the airline and the hotel where we would be staying. We needed to be protected against diseases such as yellow fever, hepatitis, diphtheria, Zika, dengue, cholera, typhoid, monkeypox, and malaria. I went to the Passport Travel Clinic in Barrie. Upon arrival, the nurse informed me that because of my previous yellow fever vaccination, I was now good for life, as stated by the World Health Organization. I asked about medicine to take for the prevention of malaria, and she stated she wasn't qualified to make a recommendation due to my medical conditions. A visit to my family doctor, our pharmacist, and the Aronia Travel Clinic took care of the rest of the requirements. I consumed or was injected with or received medications for hepatitis, cholera, typhoid, meningitis, polio, and carried medications for diarrhea and malaria. There is no medication for Zika or dengue fever, and vaccine availability for monkeypox in Canada is very limited. We briefly discussed our financial requirements and found out that while the US dollar might be accepted, in most cases we would require Kenyan shillings known as kes. The exchange at the time was approximately 96 kes to a Canadian dollar. Fred volunteered to obtain kes for the group, only to discover that the bank no longer offered the exchange service for Kenyan shillings. The planned activities at the Life Home were to be the building and planting of a garden, and a library and a computer space. Thanks to Fred's ongoing reporting, hopefully you will all have had a chance to see the fruits of our labor. We discussed what was permitted by the Kenyan authorities with regards to clothing. While used clothing was allowed to be brought in, it was forbidden to bring in new clothing since the government wants people to purchase the goods in Kenya. Thus came the plan to gather used clothing for the boys. We brought a number of suitcases of clothing for the boys. I was amused to see one of the boys sporting a Marner Maple Leaf jersey while being totally unaware who Marner is or who the Leafs are. It was new to him and he was happy with it, and I'm sorry, Bruce. As far as our clothing was concerned, we expected that we would need sun protection and long sleeve shirts for mosquito protection and light clothing for the hot weather. As it turned out, the weather was perfect, there were no mosquitoes, and it never did get really hot. Now about those plastic bags. Kenya has a major ecological issue when it comes to garbage disposal. In 2017, the Kenyan government, in an effort to stop the pollution caused by the annual distribution of over 100 million plastic shopping bags, it banned the production and distribution of those bags. Violation of this law may result in a fine of $40,000 US and perhaps a prison sentence of 4 years. So no plastic bags if visiting Kenya. That's all I would like to say, except to thank Fred and Terry for the outstanding job you both did in planning and executing what was a truly memorable journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hank. Ron's going to talk about the reception on our arrival. Is there that, you have a video?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I have nothing.
Okay.
I came with nothing, I'm leaving with nothing. Except cookies. I'm leaving with
All right.
cookies. The welcome actually is I want to give you some context because I think the welcome went over a period of time. First of all, we arrived in Nairobi having spent about 25 hours of traveling, 17 hours in a plane. I went through, I don't know how many security checks, but anyway, we got there safe and sound, and I have to give the Kenyan authorities full measure of thanks because we went through customs very easily and very quickly. We then picked up our bags, met up with our waiting greeter, and 2 vans were available for us. I don't know whether they're a van or a mini bus, but anyway, they held 10 people plus the driver. We loaded them up, and the travel to the hotel was actually quite quick because it was fairly close. We pulled up to the hotel, which was a beautiful building. The first welcome was hydraulic bollards that went into the sidewalk, which raised up to prevent the car from going in until it had been checked. So then we were greeted by 2 armed guards who had automatic rifles. They asked us a few questions, asked us to roll down the windows, etc., while the third one used a mirror to check underneath the cars to make sure we weren't bringing in any explosives. We passed, the bollards disappeared into the sidewalk, and we went in. We walked up the stairs, and another security guard said, "Over here." All our baggage went into a scanning device, very much like in the airport. We walked through a metal detector, and we finally got to the desk, and after 25 hours of work, we decided time to go to bed. We got up the next morning, and bright and early, and it was to be our first visit out for the house. Going through the city, I considered a combination of Toronto traffic and Italian drivers. That probably says enough. The roads in town were pretty good shape. When we got out into the country, the drivers had to actually stop sometimes and inch over the chasm and down into the crater and back out the other side. And we bottomed out several times. The big welcome and what we really waited for was when we arrived at the home. Although the first view was 10 feet tall cement walls with barbed wire on top. But out of the gate, when we arrived, came all the kids and all of the staff waving Canadian and Kenyan flags and singing and dancing and all wearing matching Maasai shawls. And I can tell you, my heart skipped a beat when that happened.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. talk about the boys.
The boys that's a big topic, because this subject is the whole reason that whoa.
Can you breathe, Nancy?
Yeah. That's the whole reason we went there, is for these boys. That's blinding me. I'm gonna have to move over. I can't manage that many things. Where's the down button? Oh, right there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we were there for the boys to provide a loving home for abandoned boys. That's the whole purpose of Life for Kids. So this picture is all the boys. At the time we were there were 23. It's increased since then. It's all the staff and all 11 of us. And we are obviously at the Nairobi National Park main gate. We took them there. That's a park for wildlife within the city. And as Ron just said, the boys greeted us on our arrival in their traditional costumes. They waved the flags. They beat drums, which were upturned pails. And they were very, very enthusiastic greeting us, singing as well. Here's a picture of the boys inside the home. They're drawing pictures with Kyle. Kyle's in the center there.
White boy.
Yeah, just in case you couldn't tell. This is the boys again. I'm planting a tree to commemorate our visit and the purchase by Life for Kids Canada of the new home for the boys. And these boys were so grateful for this home, which they told us over and over again while we were there. As Hank said, the 11 of us brought 12 suitcases of gently used clothing. So we sorted the clothing by sizes, and then we handed out something new to each boy, and they came out modeling these new clothes, new shoes for every boy, and a backpack for every boy. And they were really thrilled with that as well. Some of the boys wouldn't take their backpacks off while they ate supper that night. I like this picture because they just love those sunglasses. They just fought over them, and I really wish I had brought more. They came from my grandsons. And as you can see, there's lots of Tim Hortons soccer jerseys. And again, I tried to explain who Tim Hortons was, but it just seemed odd that the guy was a hockey player, but now he's known for donuts and coffee. And I thought, that probably sounds really odd to them. What on earth is the connection? Again, here's boys working in the garden. They're moving the soil, and a lot of the boys were great help to us with that garden work. And this is the youngest boy in the home getting a ride in the wheelbarrow. They use the wheelbarrow to move rocks and soil for us. And put the rocks were the edges of the garden that we needed to hold it in. I included these pictures because I found it such a striking example of the simplicity of play for the boys. The tire that he's pushing around and deflated soccer balls were the only toys we saw when we were there. So that's a huge contrast to my 4 grandsons who have everything they need. Kyle and Sydney did bring 6 balls and a pump for the boys. This was the pool afternoon, which they really enjoyed. This is another shot of that. The staff were all in the water with them playing volleyball, and many of the boys said it was the best day of the year. They only get to go to a pool once a year. And again, big contrast. We live on Georgian Bay. We get to swim whenever we want. Then this is Terry and the boys waiting for lunch at the water park. And again, they got the treat of having bottled pop, which they call soda. And the boys are dancing in unison for us, which they did numerous times. Randy will talk more about that. Dancing again in their costumes. You can see how joyful they look. This is the rough soccer field beside the house with the makeshift goal posts. Again, not really the best, but it is their favorite sport. Football, they call it. This is the boys in their new library, which was funded by Rotary. This is the small boys on the balcony space of the new library at the small tables. Here's some of the boys posing with Rotarians and Kyle and Sydney. And that's my last slide. That is the beautiful smile of a grateful boy.
Fred's next. So Fred. And Fred's going to chat a little bit about the staff and the operation of the home.
Want the light off?
It's fine off. So my interest in going there was probably a little different than some of the people in the group. As the chairman of Life for Kids Canada and a member of the advisory board that runs the home, I was really going to make sure that the place was run as well as it appeared to be, and that the funds that we were raising were actually being used appropriately. I want to tell you a little something about Jane. Next slide. I've always been impressed with the lady who's the executive director of Life for Kids. She just seemed to me to be an amazing manager. She promotes the home, she interacts with the government officials, she goes and finds the boys and gets all of the government approval to bring them into the home. She oversees the funds, she manages the staff, and my conclusion is she's even better in real person than she was on paper. She is an amazing, amazing administrator. I want to talk to you about the staff a little bit. I knew Jane and I knew the staff, but only through Zoom meetings. I had talked to them often, but it was great to see them at work. It was especially great to see the energy and the love that the staff have for the boys. Nancy and I met with the staff because we wanted to get some impressions from them, and so I want to just share some points. That's the first, yeah, if you go back, yeah. So these are the things the staff said to us about their working relationship, that they work well together, they're devoted to the boys, they're devoted to one another, they come and they stay, there's very little turnover in staff, and they really respect the leadership of Jane, which we value. Next. Their priorities are quite simple. They want to see a home that exhibits love, that reflects unity, that is peaceful, and that shows the teamwork that they feel for one another. We asked them what their priorities were for the boys, and they have an individual plan for each boy. They decide sort of what's appropriate for each of the kids. They recognize the impact that they're having on the boys. They recognize the potential impact that these young kids have in the future on the country and on Africa. And they kept telling us, this is not a children's home. This is a family. So the goals of the staff, they want to have more kids. And we actually talked about a second home someday. Now that's a lot of dollars away from where we are today, but it's not an impossible dream. There are also resources they need, and I won't take time, but you'll see and hear about those resources in the future. But that's what they identified as the things that they need to make the home even better. Next. Now, I thought it would be helpful to you to hear from some third party about how the home is operated. This gentleman is the bishop of their church. He also is the chair of the board of their school. And I think that should play if we do something to it.
My name is Bishop Dr. Dan Nikosi. I'm the bishop of New Life Pentecostal Church and the chairman of the New Life Primary School. Working for the children, that's the boys. Since they came in, we have had a good information. They have changed tremendously. They are good. In fact, we can hardly know that they came from the street. They are loved, we love them, they love us too, and every day we are seeing a great change. The beauty is that they are also doing very well academically. They are excelling in school. They are learning pretty fast, and we really thank God for them. I can see that the team that is sponsoring the Life for Kids here is a great team, and you have done a great job.
Now,
My
if
name's
you didn't understand them, you have to go there, spend 10 days, you will understand. So in conclusion, I just want to mention a few quick conclusions to you. I've concluded, and I think Nancy has too, the home is very well run. The staff and the CEO are proud of the home. I think that's an important part of their success. The boys are loved and cared for. The new home is perfect for their needs. And the challenge for us now is to continue to be able to fund that home and to grow the home. Thanks for your support.
Jason, the computer lab and the library project.
So the new Life for Kids home had a room in it that, why is it going to that slide first? So it has the new home has a room in it that they wanted to dedicate as a sort of a communal educational space for the boys that would have books, computers, and a large table that they could work at. So the space would act as a library and computer lab for the boys. The majority of the $5,000 that our club funded, and the $5,000 that was also from a grant by the district, helped to fund for the majority this project that went towards building supplies and the computers, and it was all locally sourced and purchased in Kenya so that it was there ready for us when we got there. And this was sort of the main purpose of our visit, was to assist and oversee this project. So we did get there, and the supplies were there. It didn't really go according to the plans that we actually were given, but they were supplied, and they had a worker there that really was good at construction and did a lot of the work, and we just sort of helped him preliminarily. And so that's us helping with the bookshelves and then with the workstations. But it ended up that he was doing a lot of the work, and one of the days the power was out, so we did work on the garden instead, and he just did stuff sort of but manually, and he also works off the hours that we were actually at the home. So although we went to really try to build this project, we did a lot more in the garden, and he really did a lot of the actual building along with a couple of the other people at the home. But they gradually worked through it. They built it, like we would like show up the next day or a couple of days later, and like half the things were already all built, and so this is them putting the part on the top of the table that was going to finish off that big table. The workstations are already in place at the back there. The side cabinets are already in place, and then the bookshelf was all coming into place. So that he was working on, they had trim all the way. He did a lot of the finishing touches and everything. It all looked really nice. So this is now with books in place. We went through and we were stamping all the books to show the property of the home, so that if there was like if anyone else was outside from the outside, then they wouldn't be able to take it outside, just so they knew that what was the property of the home. So they installed 5 computers, so we were able to set up those. I helped a little bit on setting up that. They have internet come in, and they have Wi-Fi in different rooms of the house, so that the library has their own Wi-Fi that works for the internet, which works fairly well we found with like all 5 stations in use. It was a little slow, but it'll be good enough for what they need. And as you saw in some previous photos, this is the outside one for the smaller boys, and then we had the grand opening of the library, and everyone came in and we had a dedication. So there were plaques commemorating the donations from the Rotary Club of Midland and Rotary District 7010, and also a plaque and a photo of the dedication to the library in memory of Pastor Martin Giebel, who is a former director of Life for Kids Canada, and he died tragically last summer. So they thought it would be fitting to have the library be dedicated in his memory. So that has plaques of that. These are the kids trying out the computers for the first time. So the boys hadn't even really used computers because they don't have them in schools. They have very little experience with them. They didn't know the basics of mouse operation. They didn't know what a click was or a scroll. So as we were demonstrating things, we had to sort of like say, okay, you can put your left finger here and you can use your middle finger to scroll here. And so we showed them Google Maps. We zoomed into Midland and showed them where that, and then zoomed out, showed the world, and then showed where Kenny was in relation to Midland, zoomed into Nairobi. So it was all like really, it's a really cool educational thing for them that they haven't had access to before. So it's a really incredible thing that we've provided for them. And then so that they had boys sitting out and reading. So just a few photos of that. Yeah, so the library was a great success. It looks great, and it's going to be really beneficial for the boys. That's it for me.
Great. Thank you.
I have photos, yeah.
We're going to hear about kids' perspective now.
I'm just going to show photos and you guys can talk. Okay. So if you want
So
to say,
Sydney and Kyle were with us, really added to the experience.
Yeah, showing up on the first day was a really cool experience to see like a display of their culture, and the way they were singing the songs was pretty awesome.
Yeah, the greeting was very nice. Lots of happy kids and pretty fun. Yeah.
I was a bit surprised to see how big the home was, but it was really great to look around in it and see how they lived, and their food was also really a new experience, but it was really good too.
Yeah, so the kids love drawing. As soon as we got there, just drawing. And then at the start of every day, it seemed like they just 1,000 pictures done. So, yeah, this is them just drawing. I decided that I wanted to show them a little something I could do. Oh, yeah. So they really wanted me to hold the bunny for some reason, but
Was that a pet or are they going to?
no, I think, I'm pretty sure they wanted to do
I'm not
it.
sure. I'm pretty sure maybe eventually
Yes, so that's on their property. Yes.
that's on their property, yeah. But yeah, this is how they told them to hold it, so the old way.
Yeah. So this is me and Sydney and Nancy sorting out the clothes for the kids in sizes and different things. Then we put them in the suitcase. You can see like all the shoes in that one suitcase in the bottom right corner.
This is trying or seeing if the clothes would fit them.
Yeah. There's a lot of. So this is us giving them the soccer balls in the pump. We already pre-pumped them, like kept it a secret, waited for the right time, and they, as you can see, they were very happy.
Yeah. By the time we left, there was already 2 balls that had been partially deflated because of
The rough terrain.
Yeah, the grass where they played.
Yeah, this was one of the most surprising parts for me, the slums. I wasn't very happy to see stuff this way, and like how well we have it here compared to them there.
Yeah, seeing this was difficult, but also very eye-opening, and definitely made me kind of realize how different parts of the world, like how really different they actually are. to where we are, and it also made me extremely grateful for what I have here.
Yeah, so we went to a few more kids' houses that they used to be at before the home picked them up, and to like go to this home. And so we went to the slums, and they had some bread and some bagged milk, and we just given them out. You can see like they're all lined up.
The garden is definitely what I worked on most when I was there. It was really fun because it's kind of something that I hadn't really done before. But yeah, I put all the rocks in there.
Yeah. Pretty fun time. You can still see some of the red sand. Still there. Couldn't get it off.
I made the bad decision of wearing white shoes the first day that we were there, so. This was my birthday. It was a bit of a surprise to me that I got this cake, but it was a really nice experience to celebrate my birthday in a different country, and yeah.
Yeah, so this was, I'm not sure when this was.
This was leaving.
Yeah. So leaving, bunch of kids, taking pictures, yeah. And just pretty sad but nice goodbye.
Yeah. The staff were also really nice, and they definitely showed that they really cared for the kids a lot.
That was Emmanuel, who was definitely one of the more talkative.
He talked to you the most first.
Yeah.
They didn't want Kyle to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying goodbye and they just pulled him back. See, as I was saying, lots of pictures.
Yeah.
They gave one to, at least 2 to everybody that was there from Canada.
And like 10 to Kyle.
Most of these are for Kyle.
Yeah, that's it. We're good.
Thank you.
Kathy Tate is going to talk about the Garden of Love.
Yep. Okay. Having Kyle and Sydney on this trip was miraculous, and I can't say enough about it. Now, we have a pile of red dirt and we have a chicken, and that's how we started the garden. We said, where are we putting the garden? They said, you see that red dirt? Okay. You see where the chicken is? Yeah. So the chicken's obviously part of this. So there's Ron and I, we're looking at this pile of red dirt. Now what do we do? So what now? So we had a couple of pickaxes. I have to say, Gord developed an obsession with the pickaxe to the point where we had to say, Gord, step away from the pickaxe. Like you're digging, we don't know where you're digging down to, but
There was such a layer of rock there.
it was rock. It was, you can't imagine, we said, and we're going to make a garden here. So I think you can see some of the progression on the right of how we start to spread this red dirt. Now, we have these kids. So all of a sudden, we were deluged by the kids. It was amazing. It was fantastic. We have King and Blessing here and a few of the other kids on the right. They couldn't get enough of this garden. All of a sudden, we were surrounded by 20 plus kids, all chipping in, all helping. So everyone got into the act. On the right here, you'll see, my goodness, is that Paul and Michael? Michael's one of the graduates from Life for Kids, who's now a police officer in Nairobi. Such a success story. And then we have the pickaxe kids here on the left. But we needed a rock border. So we ordered up rocks with the kids. Now you have to picture this, and of course Jason had to show off his rock wall. You have to picture this, like it's nothing but sand, rock, and gravel. We said we need rocks about this size with the kids. They took these wheelbarrows. Most of us could not push those wheelbarrows. We had 4 and 6-year-olds, child labor, pushing these wheelbarrows filled with these rocks. We had to make a rock wall, otherwise all that beautiful red dirt was going to disappear. So we got the red dirt spread. Then we said, okay, now what? And what are we going to plant? So we're starting to map out what we're going to plant in this garden. 25 by 25 feet. Part of this garden had a far deeper expanse of red dirt. We knew we wanted to put some big trees there. There's Terry and I in the dirt. And then we said, okay, we need some plants. So where are we going to get plants? So Sammy and Michael, who you see in this left photo here, said, okay, come to the garden center with us. We needed some help. We said we were going to purchase all edible plants and trees. You see the transportation here of our palms, coconut palms that we had. And then on the right were, of course, a lot of our helpers, staff, and the kids. Now we had to dig the holes. So you see this little guy here? Yep, oh, King, okay, I'll go. King is 4 years old and digging like the rest of them. I'll rush through this. And we have more holes that are being dug. Few more holes, lots of holes, until we start to see the green stuff, which we finally got to plant. So after 4 days, 18 fruit trees, mangoes, avocado, orange, paipai, tomato, 5 banana trees, we have our garden. It was a miraculous transformation. We said it takes a village. We had about 35 helpers with this garden. And we created what is now known as the Garden of Love.
Randy Hargrave, you're up next, and Randy will be talking about the entertainment by the boys.
As other people have mentioned, we were welcomed by the boys when we first arrived with singing and dancing, right? And so that continued all week. We would, they would come out and put on a show for us, you know, maybe just before we had lunch or after lunch, something like that. Can you do the next one? Yeah, sure. And so it wasn't all work all week, right? So most of my presentation is going to be videos of the boys dancing and such like that. So most of the dancing was native or local dancing, though there was a lot of recitals and of Christian themes, right? The home is very Christian, so a lot of stuff like that. They did the singing in Swahili or in English. The boys are in Kenya. English is the main language, but each student gets an hour of Swahili every day, right? So it wasn't all singing and dancing. They did feed us, right? So the first night they had us an outdoor barbecue for us, which is a treat for the boys. They don't get that sort of meal very often, so it was a treat. The meat there, it was wandering around the yard that morning when we arrived, right? So it was, yeah, the goat and the chickens were slaughtered that afternoon, and it was shed out just beside where they were working on the garden, right? So, yeah. So besides the meat they did serve us that night, a lot of the meals are rice, cabbage, and chapati, right, which is an Indian flatbread. Okay. So that night we had entertainment too. They had a bonfire, and they did some more singing and dancing for us that night. Most of that singing and dancing was arranged by one of the boys. He did all the choreography, right? So it was, I think he was like 12 years old and he did most of that stuff. And on the last day, they had a special event for us. They had all the boys come out and do some recitals. A lot of recitals were Bible verses they had memorized, and they repeated them to us. But I think this one is on Ramadan, and he gave us a little speech about the importance of education. So it's about a minute long, and so that was Ramadan. So he was speaking about education and how important it is, and how it opens up avenues for them, like becoming a police officer and such like that. There's no TV, so they do a lot of entertaining of themselves with song and dance.
I'm doing the safari, the fun part of it, but just a couple of impressions, things that were impressionable on me. Jason was talking about these kids for the first time using computers, and they were like probably 16, 17 years old. They spoke good English, and Jason and I were sitting there trying to get them to use a mouse and saying, okay, your left click, your right click, your scroll, click and drag, It was like totally foreign. Like we had to put our hands on top of the kids' hands and actually move their fingers to show them how to use this. And for a 16 or 17-year-old kid in North America, I mean, he doesn't know how to use a mouse. It was amazing, really. The other thing that I remember was when we arrived, the kids had just finished their school term, and the kids coming up to us and showing us the report cards, you know, we felt like surrogate parents for them. In many ways we were, and they were just so proud of what they had done, and they just wanted a pat in the back. I just thought I'd show you a map of where we were to start off with. This is Nairobi here. This is the Indian Ocean, Lake Victoria, Uganda, Somalia. We started there. Masai Mara is right here on the top of the Serengeti, and that's where you've already seen that picture. We went to on a safari with the boys at the Nairobi National Park, which is right next to the airport in Nairobi, and we spent a day there, and so the kids got to see all the animals in that area. This was a lion that we saw that day, and some of the ostriches that we saw more of here than we saw in Masai Mara. Next, this is kind of typical sort of giraffes, zebras, the type of stuff we were seeing in Masai Mara, rhinos. I'm just going to run through the types of animals we saw, and Terry, she was keeping track of them all. Tell me if I'm wrong. This is a warthog. I think those are Thompson gazelles. Are they? Or, yep. This is another type of impala. Very good. And in the background, I think that's a topi, isn't it? Yes. Okay. Again, more zebras. And this type of tree that you see here was pretty standard. And what's the name of it? Acacia. Yeah. Thank you. These are African buffalo, water buffalo. There are thousands of them. Up close pictures of them. Are those the secretary birds? Yes. Anyway, yeah. I don't know, but anyway, type of bird we saw. Again, a type of gazelle, I think. And this is a vervet monkey, baboon, elephants. I was, going there, I thought, I've been to a zoo, I've seen all these animals, but to actually see them in the wild was pretty special. You know, again, a type of gazelle. This is part of the group with the hippos in the background. And it was just after that we saw this guy. This is sort of the first lion that we saw in Masai Mara, and it had just caught a warthog, and you can see how close we were to it. These drivers realized the animal's not really too interested in us, and was able to drive that close to the animal and allow us to watch while it ate its meal. And then it decided it didn't like us and was going to carry it off to its family or whatever. This was a male lion that we saw shortly thereafter who had just eaten a meal. He, along with his three brothers, had just eaten this antelope or something, and he was having a nap. And after he had had his nap, he decided it was going to come down. We saw them up around these trees there in the back, and he decided he wanted to have a drink. So he wandered, and that's where he was going, and this is where we were able to station ourselves and watch while he sat down, and then his brother came down and decided to drink with him. And then very close to that river, you can see there were several female lions, and this is one of the young ones suckling from the mother. There was actually several of them there, and again, she just totally ignored us while she was feeding them. And then this is the subsequent day, we saw another pride of lions doing what cats typically do, at least the one in my house, scratching at the trees there. And the lions left from this those knolls that they were lying on. You can see how many of them there were in that picture. And they were going after, they were hungry, I guess. This was kind of across the ravine, and you can see two of the water buffalo there. And if you watch closely, all of a sudden the buffalo figured that there was a lion chasing them. And if you look closely, you see the lion? Fortunately, the buffaloes, I mean, they should have been part of that pack of 1,000 buffaloes, but those were two that got separated, and they were targets. These are some cheetahs that we saw, and then that's a leopard that we saw. And that's it.
I'm the only one left, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Rotary things that happened to us when we were away. So on our very last day, prior to our leaving, I had been in contact with a woman named Flora, who was a president of one of the Rotary clubs in Nairobi. And she kindly invited our group to attend a lovely friendship fellowship afternoon that just happened to be the day that we were leaving Nairobi. And it was on our way home from Masai Mara. So we ended up there and got a warm welcome from everybody who was there. The event started about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And by sort of 4 o'clock, there were probably about 100 Rotarians and Rotaractors from 3 different Rotary clubs in Nairobi that came to participate. And they had put a poster out which had the Rotary Club of Midland on it as well as part of this fellowship afternoon. So we were kindly greeted. You'll see some of the photos that are just scrolling over here about our meeting. We were just welcomed with open arms, and by the end of the evening it was like everybody was just one big happy family. Their values, their Rotary Club meeting was similar to ours. They had a sergeant at arms. They had a big poster of Paul Harris, the 4-way test, all of the banners and everything were up. Bruce will be interested in this. They held an auction where they had a piece of art that I actually thought Kathy was going to have to pay for because people were bidding on behalf of Kathy Tate. And this big thing was sitting in front of Kathy, and there ended up being 2 Rotarians who were bidding against each other. But it was an extremely long process. They could learn from the brevity of your auction items at our meetings, I have to say. So the young people that were there, it was wonderful to see. They're keen and they're active. They're also very active with their international committees and international service. We asked about the meeting coming up in Calgary, the International Convention, which is being held next June. Flora said that there are already 16 people from her club who are registered to come to Calgary, and she expected a lot more people to come. We did mention maybe they should stop for a little friendship exchange, do a little stopover in Toronto and spend a few days with us, so we'll see if that materializes. But it was just nice and a really good feeling to be amongst Rotarians and see that they're exactly the same as everybody, that they have the same dreams, the same hopes for their families, and that they just want to do good throughout the world. So that was it.
Isn't that too great? You only have right is right. Sorry about that, folks. Wow.